The sign of the Son of Man. Aren't these amazing photos? This, guys, is something that I've seen online. You can see, it's seen in these mountains. And these people are skiing on top of a mountain, and they're seeing this thing, and we're calling this the sign of the Son of Man. Okay? And here you can see what we've done is we've taken our chart of the sign of the Son of Man that we see in Matthew 24 and kind of superimposed that over this feature. See that? And what are we doing? What are we talking about? What we're talking about is Matthew 24. Matthew 24 verse 30 says, "And then you shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And all the tribes of the earth shall mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Then he shall send his angels with a great shout of a trumpet," or a voice of a trumpet, "and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, one end of heaven to another." So what is this sign of the Son of Man? It's an indication of his throne. Revelation 6:16, "Hide us from the person sitting on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb." And then in Revelation 7:1, and with these things I saw four angels standing on the four corners of the earth, holding the four winds of the earth. Now, what this is describing is something that we can find in the book of Ezekiel. And we're going to look at it and look at the details. But before we do, let's continue with the verses in Matthew and Revelation. We can see very, very clearly Matthew 24, verse 29. "Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be darkened, the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven will be shaken." That's Matthew 24:29. This is clearly the sixth seal. Revelation 6:12. "And I beheld, and when he had opened the sixth seal, there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth his hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars fell from heaven." So clearly this is the description in Matthew 24, verse 29 is the sixth seal in Revelation 6:12. Now, before we saw the sign of the Son of Man in Matthew 24, verse 30. It's the verse after this. And we also saw, as part of the sixth seal, the person sitting upon the throne and the four angels standing. Okay, so hopefully that is clear. Now, what we have to do is do some looking at this in charts. Now, all the charts that I am showing you, I will make available to you in the description field. Now, what we're looking at is a representation of the sign of the Son of Man. Now, you can see this is very similar to what we saw with the sun, that feature that was doing on the mountains there. But what we're doing is think bird's eye view looking down. In the center is a throne. Around it are four angels standing. That's what we saw in Revelation. Remember? Four angels standing, holding the four winds. When we look at the book of Ezekiel, those winds are wheels. And what we're doing is we're looking down. Now, these living creatures, there's four living creatures standing. And above them is a throne. Okay? Now, what they have is they have four faces. The face of a lion, the face of an ox, the face of a man, and the face of an eagle. Okay? One head has four faces. And what they do is they form a throne. They form a chariot. Okay? And in order for me to describe this to you, I've made an attempt at drawing it. Okay? Now, bear with this. This is, of course, not not the best. But guys, I have to do this. Some of you will not understand anything I'm saying unless I try to draw it out, okay? So this is my kind of elementary school attempt at drawing this sign of the Son of Man, this throne. Okay, above it is a throne. There's a throne, right? Well, we can see that. We'll go to the verses in Ezekiel and we'll look at that. But what we had is 4 angels standing. Okay, see, these are angels standing. These are called living creatures or cherubim. And what they do is they have their wings pointed up, and up above their wings is a throne. I encourage you to take the time to read Ezekiel chapter 1 and Ezekiel chapter 10. It provides a great bit of detail about this. I'm doing a simplified view to show you the various places in the scripture that is describing this. Okay, so what do we have? 4 angels standing. That's what it said in Revelation, right? Holding the 4 winds. Well, the 4 winds are 4 wheels. And keep in mind, everything that's described in this is things natural in creation. So it appears that the wheels are actually circular with the ring around it. Okay? And that's more than likely what we're looking at is something that's like a planet, like a Saturn, right? Like a wheel within a wheel, but the wheel is like, it just says wheel, but it could be like a ball or a sphere and then a ring around it. And then there's eyes in the cherubim and in this whole description, okay? But the reason I'm spending the time to draw this and describe this to you is it's very important, because these are the 4 winds that is part of the sign of the Son of Man. These are the angels standing, okay, the angels that are part of his throne. And then it has a rainbow around the throne. There's a rainbow and then there's a throne. Now, it also has something like crystal. And what it is you have the angels. There's actually 2 wings that point up of the cherubim, and above their heads is something described as crystal, and then a throne. So we've done our best to try to depict these things and draw them in a simplified way that you would understand that clearly Revelation 6:16 is talking about a throne. Revelation 7, there would be no break in the chapters. It says, with these things, 4 angels standing. Okay, the cherubim are standing upright, holding the 4 winds at the 4 corners. So that's what this is something we can find in the book of Ezekiel. Okay? Now, the reason we're spending all this time to describe this to you is because we have seen this in Ezekiel chapter 1 and verses 10. Okay, this whole chariot of the cherubim, or sign of the Son of Man. We see it in Matthew 24, verse 30. We see it in Revelation 6:16 and 7:1. 4 angels standing, 4 wheels, which are the 4 winds. We'll also look at Exodus 19. But the other thing that we have in the book of Ezekiel is Ezekiel's experience with the coming of the Son of Man. So let's look at the verses. Okay, Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 4, and I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding in itself in the brightness about it, and out of the midst thereof was the color of amber, and out of the midst of the fire, and out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures, right? Remember, we saw the 4 angels standing, the 4 living creatures. And this was their appearance, and they had the likeness of a man, or standing upright. So what's happening is Ezekiel is seeing this description of Matthew 24, the coming of the Son of Man in the clouds, coming in a whirlwind, a great cloud and fire, in brightness. Okay, this is what it says. He's coming in power and great glory. And then in Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 26, and above their heads was the likeness of a throne, and the appearance of sapphire stone. And the likeness of the throne was the likeness of the appearance of a man sitting upon the throne. So we could see from the description here in Ezekiel chapter 1:26, we have a throne, we have 4 cherubim, we have 4 wheels. Okay, read the whole thing. It's a lot of detail. We're just doing a simplified description. But then what happens is Ezekiel, this word, this prophecy, this description continues in chapter 2. And then it says, Ezekiel, open your mouth, eat what I give you. And I looked, behold, a hand was sent unto me, and the roll of a book therein. So what this is this is a scroll. All right? And here you can see a scroll. And so Ezekiel is given a scroll, and it says, eat this scroll. Well, everything in the book of Ezekiel is in the book of Revelation. In the book of Revelation, the Apostle John also sees a little book, and he eats the little book. Okay, this is the same thing that we see here in Ezekiel chapter 2. Okay, eat the scroll, eat the book. Okay, so that's what we have. Eat the scroll, eat the book. And then it continues into Ezekiel chapter 3. Ezekiel chapter 3 and verse 8, just like we saw Ezekiel 2:8 and 9, now we have Ezekiel 3:8 and 9. Behold, I have made your face strong against their faces, your forehead strong against their foreheads, as an adamant harder than flint. Now here's a flint. Okay, a flint is like a arrowhead. My friend Shelig in Ohio gave me this arrowhead. See if I can kind of show it to you. And he's very knowledgeable in all this, but he gave me this, and I was like, oh man, that's cool. But then I was looking at Ezekiel, I'm like, this is amazing. This is on his forehead. Okay? And I do have another video where we talk about this, because what is on the forehead in Revelation chapter 7? There are those, and what happened? We had the angel, the 4 angels stand, the 4 winds. And then it says, don't let the winds blow until we have sealed the servants of God on their forehead. Okay, so clearly the coming of the Son of Man, this throne, is related to the eating of the scroll, the sealing on the forehead. You see that? Okay. So that is what this chariot is doing. Why? Because we are seeing this chariot in Matthew 24. Remember Matthew 24? It said, then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. The tribes of the earth shall mourn. They'll see the Son of Man coming in power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of the trumpet. They shall gather his elect. Okay? Well, who's the elect? It's the one with the seal. It's the ones that have eaten the scroll. Okay? We know that clearly because that's what it says in Ezekiel chapter 2, verse 8, and chapter 3, verse 8. That Ezekiel eats the scroll, which we see in Revelation 10. And he has a flint on his forehead. Okay? Amazing. Now, let's look here as well at Exodus. Now, the timing I'm doing this, I hope to upload this soon. But in Exodus, we have a similar thing when God comes, Yahweh comes on the mountain in Mount Sinai. And it came to pass on the 3rd day and the morrow that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud on the mountain, and the voice of a trumpet exceedingly loud, so that the people that were in the camp trembled. Remember, it said, all the tribes of the earth shall mourn. And Mount Sinai was altogether a smoke, because Yahweh descended upon it in fire, and the smoke ascended as the smoke of a furnace. And the whole mount quaked greatly. And when the voice of the trumpet exceedingly loud waxed louder and louder. This is all describing the same thing, guys. The sign of the Son of Man. There should be a sign of the Son of Man in heaven. The tribes of the earth shall mourn when they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Okay? Now, what happens in Exodus 19:1 is this happens in the 3rd month. And the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt. In the selfsame day they went into the wilderness of Sinai. Well, that day, you see in chapter 6, verse 1, the 15th day. So what we have is we're in this time. Okay, so we have the week of Pentecost. We have the video which we showed you, the week of Pentecost. And the week following that, you prepare 3 days. And this was the when God came down on the mountain. Yahweh came down on the mountain, Sinai. Okay? And so Habakkuk 3:8 also talks about this. You did ride upon your horses and chariots, Merkabah, of salvation. Well, salvation is Yeshua. So this is his chariot. This is the chariot of Yeshua. Then you shall see the sign of the Son of Man coming in power and great glory, coming in the clouds. So what have we learned? We have learned that there is a throne. It moves. There are 4 angels standing. Those 4 angels standing are holding the 4 winds. This we see in Revelation. This we see in Ezekiel chapter 1. And it's his throne. Above the angels, these angels move. Okay? They move. They can move as fast as lightning. Okay, read Ezekiel chapter 1. There's a rainbow. This whole description. But why is this significant? Because while Ezekiel is seeing this, he's seeing the coming of the Son of Man, the sign of the Son of Man. He's instructed, eat the scroll. Son of Man, eat the scroll. Then he's instructed, as a flint, okay, so have I made your forehead. He's sealed. So he eats the scroll. He's sealed. The same thing that we see in Revelation. Revelation chapter 10. John was instructed to eat the scroll, eat the little book. Okay? And then we see, don't let the winds blow until we have sealed the servants of God on their forehead. Okay? So guys, thank you for watching. For some of you, these concepts and things may be new to you, but I have another video where we did this in the woods and kind of reenacted it in terms of what this chariot of the cherubim looks like. And I'll put a link in the description field. I would strongly encourage you to watch that. But there's a lot here. I have lots of videos on this, okay? But he's coming soon. Okay, and as we say, watch and pray that you be accounted worthy to escape all these things and stand before the Son of Man.